So this is the final video presentation for my game Mouse Rim. The concept is a pretty simple one. It's a cute little mousey in a world where a cool helmet guy lives in a village all by himself, and a very scary dragon, Alduin, is harassing him. Mousey needs to accept the quest and find and kill Alduin to save the village. So if we start off here, we can see that there is some dialogue, and this dialogue as well will unlock the cursor from the game so we can click freely, as well as it'll lock the cursor once the UI goes away so we can go ahead and look around without having the cursor on the screen. Now if we go up to our cool helmet guy over here, he will offer us the first quest. We can go through. He'll explain to us that a dragon is terrorizing his town and he needs our help to solve it. He'll explain that he captured a minion and he trapped him in the teleporter, or in the sewer, and made him his teleporter to lead us to the dragon arena. So if we accept that quest, it'll display in the bottom right of what we have to do, and there's even an arrow to tell us where to go. He's still screaming though. We're going to ignore his cries this time. I do feel pretty bad about it. We can also see the menu screen here. I don't want to show it when I'm fighting the boss. So if we proceed, we'll now be in the boss arena. And we can fight our cool helmet guy's biggest foe. So we can shoot little bees at him, and once we kill him, we have 1 out of 1 town saved, and our score is off the wall. We have finally saved Helmet Guy. Thank you. Now that we've heard a little bit about the game concept and seen some gameplay, let's talk more in depth. So the level design is a pretty simple layout. It's a village surrounded by mountains in a dark and gloomy environment. Its population is now limited to only 1, which is our little helmet guy, since the dragon has destroyed the entire village. We have our trigger over here that will take the player to the actual dragon arena, and if we go over there, we can see that this is also a dark and gloomy area, and it's a big coliseum in the sky that floats above the village. I designed it this way because I feel like a dark and gloomy environment would match that of somebody whose village is being absolutely destroyed and decimated by a big dragon. So I feel like it would just fit the scene quite well, that it's gloomy. So there are quite a few assets I actually used in this game. Probably one of the most used is the fantasy village, the medieval town. It has prefabs for quite a lot of different medieval village buildings and carts, and this really brought together the scenery, as well as not only in the town but in the boss arena, because Alduin's a mean guy and he picks up buildings and stalls from the local village and steals them away. Custom assets were also used for our sound design. We have, back in our home village, we actually have a background audio playing, which is the music, and the gun as well. It will also make sounds when you shoot it. I also used the Stone UI asset, which was very critical in having all of this up. I could not design something like this, as well as the buttons up top that help you navigate through your quest objective. Other than that, the rest of the assets were mainly just cosmetic, such as the skybox and text editors and whatnot. The trees, for example, were also a part of an asset that I used to paint around. I wanted to keep the character design in this game fairly simple and limited. We can see that we have a a nice little mousey who has a big UI on his head. If we just turn that off and get a little bit closer to him, we can see he's a nice, cute little mousey who's just a happy-go-lucky guy. He's always down to help his friends out, as well as Alduin, which is the big scary dragon. He is quite the foe, quite the menace. You can see he's just a pretty classical fantasy dragon, nothing out of the medieval times for sure. And our last character, which is Cool Hat Guy. If we go back to our hometown, we can see him over here. I feel like in this game, at least, with the mouse being the main character, this guy fits in kind of well with the cartoony medieval aesthetic. He's also a happy-go-lucky fella, even though his entire village was destroyed by the dragon above. You know, he remains hopeful. He looks towards the brighter day when a mouse may come to his village and save the day. So there are a couple animation transitions in this game. The main one being our walking animation to the running or walking to running, and also from idle. So if we start up here, we can see that he goes from idle, where he's just bobbing his head around, having a good old time. He doesn't know the impending doom that awaits him, and that can follow into our walking animation, and our walking animation can also transition into running. And throughout all of those, our character can jump, and he starts to fall as well. So he has the jump animation, and then separate, once he starts losing momentum and falling, he'll go down. So the lighting in this game is fairly simple. There's just one main object in the sky that casts down all the lighting. There's also some lights around the medieval town, as you would normally find. There are quite a few mechanics and scripts to this game. If we start off in the gameplay, we can see our very first two, actually, with the dialogue scripts displaying on the page, as well as the cinematography cameras coming along. Everything in this game is script-based almost entirely. So our walking and movement, as well as our camera following and shooting, is based on scripts. And there's a couple triggers in the game, such as if you our cool hat guy will walk around in not patrol, but just walk around an area around this light. And once you enter his trigger zone, he'll give you the quest and start crying, and he'll also wave to you. There's a trigger over here on the well that will teleport you to the boss arena, as well as sink the well into the ground. It also lowers the lights a bit, but the player's not in that scene for long enough to notice. There's also the patrol script of the dragon. He wanders 4 points here, from where he spawns to the right, back into the middle, and then to the left again. And then he'll just reset. But if the player gets in range a little bit and the dragon is in line of sight, he will start to follow the player. But thankfully, our mouse is impervious, and he will not stop for any dragon. And if the dragon loses line of sight, he'll start to walk away, or if he catches him again, he'll walk back towards him. I already touched a little bit on the UI with the with some of the assets that I imported. In this case, our UI is a pretty simple UI. You can view about the game, you can restart the game and exit the game, and also just close the menu. This menu also has the cursor coming in and out of the locked state, so the player doesn't get that annoying cursor on his screen. There's also some UI for the player himself. He does have actually a player name, which is Mousy, and a score, which you can see in the top right. That will update, and that'll actually update negatively in the village if you jump on the buildings or do anything else. Well, actually, it'll update once you kill Mr. Alduim. But as you can see, you lose 1,000 points once you jump on one of the buildings and break it, because, I mean, that's your homie's town. So the game has a few sounds that we've talked about earlier, with the shoot sound, as well as the background. I'm not sure if you can hear that. Let me adjust my audio. So the shoot sound will play a sound when you shoot, as well as the game has some background music that that you can hear now. And this will just play throughout this level. I kept the boss room without music because I personally feel like, at least for like a scary boss fight, you less sound is more sound. So with the sound design, you don't want to have anything in your ears. The player will notice that he kind of feels empty and scared and alone. The cinematography in this game, aside from the character camera movement, is in the start of the first level, where a camera will go on a track around the area, and then it will fade into the actual player camera twice. And once the cinematic scene is over, he gains control of the camera, and he can do whatever he wants. And lastly is the story and dialogue. You saw briefly, as I played through the game, there is some story that goes through the Mousy, who finally made it into the woods, and he can see that there's a strange village at the end of this path. This goes along to where he meets his first companion and pal, good old friend, Cool Helmet Guy. We already saw his dialogue, so I won't run through it all again, but he basically is the quest giver, and he pops up. He has a couple options. You know, you can investigate more, or you can just choose to ignore him, but that makes you feel absolutely awful, and makes you honestly just want to restart the game and not have to deal with that feeling ever again.